The Bible is a never-ending story about a never-ending love. God's love for God's people. The story of love is complicated. When challenged by what law is the greatest, Jesus responds, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." It is a reciprocal relationship. It is not simple or an easy kind of love. It is a quite complicated relationship, which is never complete. Each life is unique, often shrouded in its own sense of mystery, each with its own calling to serve God. Moses' life was just so. Other than Jesus, Moses had the most intimate relationship with God. It was he who knew God face to face. His life ends on Mount Pisgah, where God shows him the land promised long ago to Abraham. It is expansive and beautiful. After wandering in the desert for 40 years, it must have been a glorious sight. As he stood there, he knew he would not be crossing over the Jordan River to the Promised Land. He had laid hands on Joshua, son of Nun, designating him as the leader of the people. He had blessed the people. And even though Moses was a man full of life, engaged in living and leading the people, this mountain holds the mystery of his death even still. Being called by God at the burning bush, Moses said to God, "I am not a man of words. I am heavy of speech and tongue." Yet Moses lived into the call. It was a challenging call. To deliver the Israelites out of bondage of slavery in Egypt was no small feat. Then to lead them for 40 years through the desert, it certainly wasn't what the Israelites expected, and they complained a lot. No food, no water, no meat. It was difficult. When Moses disappeared for 40 days on the mountain with God, they turned against God and worshipped a golden calf. Moses stood in the breach, beginning when he stood before Pharaoh seeking release of the enslaved Israelites, returning again and again to Pharaoh requesting the people's freedom. And each time Pharaoh denied the people's release, God would instruct Moses to hold up his staff, and God would bring forth plagues on the Egyptians until Pharaoh set the Israelites free. In the wilderness, Moses listened to the Israelites' complaints and asked God to meet the people's needs. And God provided manna, quails, and water from a rock. When the people challenged God's wrath, worshiping the golden calf, Moses said to God, "And now forgive them, and if not, blot me out of the book you have written. Forgive them, or take my life." Moses stood as a servant, an instrument through whom God brought forth miracle after miracle. Moses laid his life on the line. Through it all, Moses learned to open himself to God and others in love, so that something greater could flow through him. According to Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, it is the highest achievement to which we can aspire. It certainly wasn't a feel-good, warm, fuzzy kind of love. It was a love that did what was necessary, that withstood challenges, that forged a fortitude and filled Moses with a love of life, God and God's people. The vigor of it filled him with a vitality up until he was no more. His was a life of awe, of challenge, of living through adversity. And then he disappeared. His end is a mystery. No one knows where he was buried. There are no gravestones or epitaphs. He returned to the dust from which we all come, without a trace. Yet his life changed the world. Today, we are the next chapter in the never-ending story of God's never-ending love being made known in the world. This week, please pray, vote, be kind, and walk in faith, especially when it is hard to do so.